The ship's warning systems blared as Vexa frantically worked the controls. Blood trickled from a gash above her eye, staining her silver-blue skin. Her mission had gone catastrophically wrong. Not because she'd failed to kill her target, the warlord of Proxima Centauri's third moon was very much dead, but because she'd been identified. In 15 years as the Galactic Syndicate's most lethal assassin, she'd never been compromised. Navigation systems failing, the ship's AI announced with maddening calm. Entering uncharted planetary atmosphere. Structural integrity at 37%. Vexa hissed through sharpened teeth. The small blue planet hadn't been her destination, but it would have to do. Better an unknown world than capture by the warlord's guards. The punishment for assassinating a high-ranking official was not quick death, but slow dismemberment, 1 limb per lunar cycle. "Find me a landing zone," she commanded, wincing as her wound reopened. The poorly bandaged plasma blast in her side burned like liquid fire. Unable to comply. All systems failing. Brace for impact. The ship screamed through the atmosphere, outer hull glowing red-hot. Vexa strapped herself in and closed her eyes. She'd survived worse. Probably. The impact came with a deafening roar as metal tore and control panels exploded around her. Then, darkness. Liam Foster was splitting wood when the sky broke open. The thunderous boom echoed across the mountain valley, sending birds scattering from treetops. He squinted upward, watching as something trailing smoke carved through the afternoon sky before disappearing behind the ridge 2 miles east. "What the hell?" he muttered, embedding his axe in the chopping block. 3 years in this remote cabin had accustomed him to solitude. After 2 tours in war zones and a failed marriage, he'd retreated to these mountains to escape a world that had taken too much from him. The nearest town was 40 miles away, exactly how he liked it. But curiosity was a powerful motivator. Whatever had crashed might have valuable salvage. Or survivors needing help. He gathered his rifle, first aid kit, and backpack before setting off through the pine forest. The November chill bit through his flannel jacket, but he moved with purpose, following the trail of broken treetops. The wreckage appeared suddenly, a sleek metallic craft unlike any aircraft he'd ever seen. No wings. No propellers. Just a streamlined silver pod, partially buried in disturbed earth. Definitely not military. Not commercial either. Liam approached cautiously, rifle ready. Steam hissed from ruptured conduits. The craft's surface was oddly unmarked despite the impact, showing only slight scorching along one side. A section of the hull had split open, revealing a dark interior. Liam peered inside, then stumbled backward when he saw movement. A figure dragged itself from the wreckage, humanoid but clearly not human. Silver blue skin. Hair like liquid obsidian. Eyes with vertical pupils, glowing amber in the shadows. "Stay back," the being warned in surprisingly perfect English, though the voice carried an otherworldly resonance. She, and it was clearly female despite her alienness, held what appeared to be a weapon. "You're hurt," Liam said, noting the dark fluid soaking her fitted combat suit. "I can help." The alien's eyes narrowed with suspicion. "Why would you help me, human?" "Because you need it," he replied simply. "And I'm not the type to let someone bleed out, even if they're not from around here." A pained smile twisted her lips, revealing sharp incisors. Perceptive. She attempted to stand, then collapsed. Liam moved forward, medical training overriding caution. Up close, her features were both terrifyingly alien and strangely beautiful, high cheekbones, almond-shaped eyes, skin that seemed to shimmer with an internal luminescence. "Name's Liam," he said, checking her wounds. "What should I call you?" "Vexa," she managed before losing consciousness. The wound in her side was unlike anything he'd seen, the edges crystallized as if burned by extreme cold rather than heat. Liam hesitated only briefly before lifting her. She was surprisingly light despite her height. "Well, Vexa," he said to the unconscious alien, "welcome to Earth. Let's get you patched up before whoever did this comes looking." As he carried her through the darkening forest toward his cabin, Liam couldn't shake the feeling that his solitary existence had just become infinitely more complicated. Vexa awoke to the crackle of a wood fire. Instinctively, her hand moved to where her pulse blade should be holstered, finding only bare skin beneath unfamiliar fabric. She was dressed in oversized human clothing, a gray thermal shirt and loose-fitting pants. "Your weapons are over there," came a deep voice from across the room. "Figured you'd sleep better without them, but I didn't hide them." The human, Liam, sat in a worn armchair, cleaning what appeared to be a primitive projectile weapon. He nodded toward a table where her pulse blade, phase disruptor, and tactical belt lay neatly arranged. "You undressed me," she stated flatly. "Had to treat your wounds." He didn't look up. "Nothing I haven't seen before, though admittedly not quite that color." Vexa assessed her injuries. The plasma wound had been cleaned and bandaged with surprising skill. The gash above her eye was sealed with some kind of adhesive strip. "You have medical training," she observed. "Army. 2 tours. Field medic." His answers were as economical as his movements. "You've been out for 3 days. Whatever hit you was nasty, looked like frostbite and burn at the same time. Crystallizing plasma. Designed to freeze organic tissue while burning through armor." Vexa swung her legs over the side of the bed, testing her strength. "My ship? Cloaked itself after I carried you out. Some kind of holographic camouflage. Smart tech." This surprised her. "You've seen such technology before?" Liam finally looked up, dark eyes studying her face. "No. But I've learned to adapt to the unexpected. Alien crash landing in my backyard? Just another Tuesday." The corner of his mouth twitched in what might have been a smile. Vexa felt an unexpected urge to return the gesture but suppressed it. "I need to secure the ship. Others will come looking. Others like you, or others who did that to you." "The latter." "Figured." He set the rifle aside and stood. "There's stew if you're hungry. Don't know if your kind eats the same things we do." Vexa inhaled, detecting unfamiliar but not unpleasant aromas. "My species is omnivorous with similar nutritional requirements to humans. Our digestive systems are more efficient. That's one way to avoid asking if I'll be offended when you critique my cooking," Liam remarked dryly. The stew was actually palatable, protein-rich and calorie-dense, precisely what her healing body needed. As she ate, Vexa studied her reluctant host. He moved with the practiced efficiency of a warrior, yet his isolated dwelling suggested he'd rejected that life. "Why do you live alone in these woods, Liam?" He paused, seeming surprised by her interest. "Let's just say I've seen enough of civilization." "You're hiding," she concluded. "Look who's talking." His eyes flickered to her weapons. "I recognized quality gear when I saw it. Those aren't standard issue for whatever species you belong to. They're specialized. Expensive." Vexa set down her bowl. "The Syndicate provides the best tools." "Syndicate," he repeated. "Military? Government?" "Neither. An organization that solves problems for clients willing to pay." "You're an assassin," he said without judgment. She didn't deny it. "And now I'm a target. I failed to cover my tracks. The Warlord security forces will trace my ship's emergency beacon. That explains the radio chatter. Been picking up weird signals on my equipment since yesterday." Liam moved to a crude communications array in the corner. "Military channels are active too. Your landing didn't go unnoticed by Earth authorities." Vexa tensed. "I need to leave before they find me." Not in your condition. Whatever shot you used a weapon designed to ensure a slow recovery. He crossed his arms. Besides, there's a blizzard coming. Even I'm not heading out for at least 2 days. Why are you helping me? I've told you what I am. Liam was silent for a long moment. Maybe I recognize someone else who's running from their past. He gathered her empty bowl. Rest. We'll figure out our next move when the storm passes. That night, as howling winds battered the cabin, Vexa listened to Liam's steady breathing from his position on the floor beside the fireplace. He'd insisted she keep the bed. For 15 years, she'd survived by trusting no one. Attachment was weakness, compassion, a liability. Yet this human had shown her both without demanding anything in return. Outside, through the frosted window, she caught a faint pulsing light in the distance, her ship's emergency beacon activating despite the cloaking system. Soon, hunters from 2 worlds would converge on this remote location. And despite her better judgment, Vexa found herself concerned not just for her own survival, but for the human who had saved her life. The blizzard had finally passed, leaving the mountains blanketed in pristine white. Vexa stood by the window, her silver-blue skin reflecting the morning light. Her wounds were healing faster than Liam had expected, another alien trait he was still adjusting to. They're getting closer, she said, pointing to faint lights visible through his binoculars. 3 ships, military formation. Not your Earth vessels. Liam joined her at the window, their shoulders nearly touching. How much time do we have? Hours, not days. She turned to face him, those vertical pupilled eyes studying him intently. You should leave, Liam. This isn't your fight. My cabin, my rules, he replied with unexpected firmness. Besides, where would I go? Those aren't just alien hunters out there, your crash got the attention of our military too. Vexa's expression softened. In the 5 days since her arrival, she'd observed how meticulously he prepared, setting traps in the surrounding forest, establishing escape routes, stockpiling supplies in a hidden cave system behind the cabin. You're a good tactician, she admitted. For a human. High praise from the galaxy's deadliest assassin. His voice carried a warmth that surprised her. Vexa approached him, closing the distance between them. I need to show you something. A fighting technique. If we're separated. She positioned herself behind him, arms encircling his broad shoulders. Liam tensed at the contact, then gradually relaxed as she guided his arms through a series of precise movements. Pressure points, she explained, her breath warm against his neck. Human or alien, certain nerve clusters are universal. Her hands slid down his arms, fingers tracing patterns along his skin. The movements were instructional, but there was something else beneath the touch, a curiosity, perhaps even desire. Like this? Liam asked, his voice lower than before. He turned in her grasp, reversing their positions with unexpected grace. Vexa found herself pressed gently against the wall, his body close to hers. For a seasoned killer, she should have felt threatened. Instead, a different tension filled the space between them. Quick learner, she murmured. His eyes held hers for a long moment. Then, with a decisiveness that matched her own, Liam leaned forward and pressed his lips to hers. The kiss was tentative at first, a question rather than a demand. Vexa froze momentarily, then responded with a hunger that surprised them both. Her fingers tangled in his dark hair as the kiss deepened, her body arching against his. This wasn't part of any mission protocol. The Syndicate would consider such attachment a fatal weakness. Yet as his rough hands caressed the curve of her waist, Vexa found herself surrendering to a different kind of surrender. They moved to the bed, discarding layers of clothing. Liam paused, his eyes taking in her alien form with undisguised appreciation. You're beautiful, he whispered. Vexa had been called many things, lethal, efficient, merciless, but never beautiful. She pulled him down to her, their bodies meeting in a dance both familiar and utterly new. Human and alien anatomies proved surprisingly compatible, differences becoming points of discovery rather than barriers. In the cold mountain cabin, they created heat of their own, finding rhythm in their shared vulnerability. For precious minutes, the hunters were forgotten as predator and protector found solace in each other's arms. Afterward, they lay entwined beneath furs, Vexa's head resting on Liam's chest as he traced the intricate patterns naturally etched into her silver-blue skin. The markings, he asked softly, do they mean something? Family lineage. Caste designation. She traced a particularly elaborate whorl near her collarbone. This indicates I was born for elite service. My species doesn't believe in choice, our paths are determined before birth. Yet you chose to fail your mission. To run. Vexa stiffened. How did you know? Your ship's database. While you were unconscious, I accessed its logs. He met her gaze without apology. Had to know what I was dealing with. She pulled away slightly. And now that you know? I know you were sent to assassinate someone called the Warlord of Proxima Centauri. I know you completed that mission. His finger traced the line of her jaw. What I don't know is why your own people are hunting you for succeeding. Before Vexa could respond, an alarm chimed from the makeshift detection system they'd rigged. She sprang from the bed, instantly alert. They found us, she hissed, gathering her weapons. Liam was already moving, pulling on clothes and checking his rifle. The intimacy of moments before gave way to the efficiency of two warriors preparing for battle. Northeast approach, 3 signatures, he confirmed, studying the sensor readout. Heavy weapons. Vexa's expression hardened. The Syndicate sent harvesters. Elite hunters. Friends of yours? I trained 2 of them. She activated her pulse blade, the weapon humming to life with lethal energy. The 3rd is their commander, Draith. He taught me everything I know. Liam met her eyes across the room, an unspoken question hanging between them. Yes, she answered before he could ask. He will kill you without hesitation. To him, you're nothing but leverage against me. Then we better not let him catch us. Liam shouldered his pack, then tossed her a small device. Cabins rigged to blow. Thought it might come in handy as a distraction. For the first time since her arrival, Vexa smiled genuinely. Perhaps there's hope for your species yet, Liam Foster. As they slipped into the underground tunnel that would lead them to the cave system, Vexa felt an unfamiliar sensation alongside the familiar battle readiness, something dangerously close to hope. The mountain cave system provided temporary sanctuary. Vexa and Liam crouched near the narrow entrance, watching as the harvesters combed through the remains of the exploded cabin below. They'll track us soon enough, Vexa whispered. Draith can follow quantum traces from my weapons. Liam nodded, checking their supplies. Then we need a better plan than just running. Deep in the cave, they'd established a makeshift camp. A small heating unit from Vexa's emergency pack provided warmth without detectable smoke. The blue glow cast ethereal shadows across the rock walls, highlighting the tension in Vexa's features. You never answered my question, Liam said, sitting beside her. Why is the Syndicate hunting one of their best assassins? Vexa's fingers traced the edge of her pulse blade. Because I learned something I wasn't supposed to know. Which was? That the Warlord wasn't my real target. Her eyes met his. He was bait. The explosion that killed him was meant to take out an entire diplomatic delegation, representatives from 12 worlds negotiating a peace treaty that would have damaged Syndicate operations in 3 sectors. Liam frowned. But you only killed the Warlord. I recognized the bomb configuration when I infiltrated his quarters. It was designed for mass casualties. Her voice hardened. We have a code. 1 target, minimal collateral damage. Clean, precise elimination. So you improvised. I extracted the warlord, executed him privately, then reported mission complete. Her lips curved in a bitter smile. But Draith was monitoring. He knew I'd disobeyed direct orders. Liam moved closer, taking her hand. The alliness of her silver-blue skin against his tan human flesh was striking, yet somehow right. You saved innocent lives, he said softly. I betrayed my organization, she corrected. The penalty is death, not just for me, but for anyone who assists me. The implication hung heavy between them. Liam cupped her face, his thumb tracing the luminescent markings on her cheek. Worth it, he said simply, before pulling her into a kiss. This time their intimacy was different, slower, more deliberate. They undressed each other with reverent care, exploring bodies that were both foreign and increasingly familiar. Vexa's skin emitted a faint bioluminescence in the darkness, casting Liam's features in soft blue light as he moved above her. She guided his hands to specific points along her body, places where her alien physiology was most responsive. He learned quickly, drawing gasps and shudders from her as his fingers and lips discovered new territories. Here, she whispered, placing his palm against the center of her chest where a starburst pattern pulsed beneath her skin. This is our equivalent of your heart, but we call it the soul center. Liam pressed his lips to the spot, feeling the rhythmic double beat against his mouth. Beautiful, he murmured. They moved together on the makeshift bed, their bodies finding harmony despite their differences. When they finally joined completely, Vexa's markings flared brighter, illuminating the cave in pulsing cobalt waves that matched the rhythm of their shared pleasure. Afterward, as they lay entwined, Liam traced the glowing patterns across her shoulder blades. These are different, he observed. They changed during. Vexa looked away, suddenly vulnerable. Their bond marks. My species, when we connect with someone deeply, it shows physically. Is that bad? It's never happened to me before. Her voice was barely audible. Syndicate assassins are chemically treated to prevent attachment. It shouldn't be possible. Liam's expression softened. Maybe some things are stronger than your syndicate's chemicals. Before she could respond, a small device at the cave entrance began pulsing red. They sprang apart, instantly alert. Proximity alarm, Vexa hissed, already reaching for her weapons. They've found us. They dressed hurriedly, the intimacy of moments before replaced by the harsh reality of their situation. As Vexa calibrated her phase disruptor, Liam noticed her hands trembling slightly. You're afraid, he realized. Not of dying. She met his gaze. I've faced death since I was conscripted at age 12. I'm afraid of what they'll do to you because of me. Because of the bond marks? Because I've never had a weakness before. She touched his face gently. Now I do. The proximity alarm flashed more urgently. Outside, the faint sound of specialized tracking equipment grew closer. We have 3 options, Liam said, his military training asserting itself. Run deeper into the caves, split up to divide their forces, or make our stand, Vexa finished. Together. Their eyes met in silent communication, a decision formed without words. Liam checked his weapons while Vexa activated a small device from her tactical belt. What's that? He asked. Insurance, she replied. If we survive this, we'll need somewhere to go. And if we don't? Vexa's luminescent eyes held his. Then I die knowing what it feels like to choose my own path for once. She pulled him close, pressing her forehead to his in a gesture of her species. And to be chosen in return. The alarm blazed solid red. The hunters had arrived. The cave entrance erupted in blue plasma fire. Vexa and Liam took defensive positions behind rock formations, weapons ready. Vexa called a deep, resonant voice. The Syndicate sentences you to death for treason. Surrender the human, and we'll make it quick. Draith, Vexa whispered to Liam. He won't negotiate. 3 shadowy figures materialized from the darkness. Their armor resembled liquid metal, flowing and adapting to their movements. The leader, taller than the others, removed his helmet to reveal features similar to Vexa's but with crimson markings instead of silver blue. I trained you better than this, Draith said, gesturing at Liam. Attachment is weakness. Vexa rose from cover, pulse blade humming. You taught me efficiency above all. Killing innocents isn't efficient, it's sloppy. The other 2 harvesters flanked Draith, weapons targeting both Liam and Vexa. One spoke in their native language, a series of melodic clicks and hums. Yes, Krill, I see the bond marks, Draith replied in English. Our little Vexa has mated with the primitive. Disgusting. Liam stepped forward, rifle aimed steadily. This primitive just rigged your ships with explosives while you were searching the cabin. One signal from this detonator, and you're stranded. Draith's expression flickered with doubt. The bluff had worked, temporarily. Impressive, he conceded. The Syndicate might have use for you, human. Join us, and you might survive. Not interested in joining assassins who target innocents, Liam replied. Draith shrugged. Pity. Everything happened at once. The harvesters attacked with coordinated precision, firing disruptor beams that shattered rock formations. Vexa moved with blinding speed, her pulse blade intercepting energy bolts while Liam provided covering fire. The close quarters of the cave worked to their advantage. The harvesters' superior technology was partially neutralized by the confined space, allowing Liam's combat experience and Vexa's intimate knowledge of their tactics to even the odds. Vexa engaged Draith directly, their blades clashing in bursts of energy. You were always too emotional, he taunted. It's why you'll never surpass me. She feinted left, then executed the very move Liam had used against her during their intimate encounter. Draith, unprepared for this human technique, stumbled backward. Vexa's blade found the gap in his armor, sinking deep. You're right, she whispered as he fell. Emotion is my strength, not my weakness. Meanwhile, Liam grappled with Krill, using the pressure points Vexa had taught him. The alien assassin collapsed, temporarily paralyzed. The 3rd harvester retreated toward the entrance, only to be caught between Vexa and Liam's crossfire. As silence fell, Liam approached Draith's fallen form. The alien commander clutched his wound, dark fluid pooling beneath him. The Syndicate will send others, he warned, voice weakening. Vexa knelt beside her former mentor. Not if they believe we died here. She activated the device from earlier. I set the self-destruct on my ship. The explosion will destroy all evidence. Draith laughed weakly. Always, thorough. His eyes closed for the final time as the mountain rumbled with a distant explosion. Vexa stood, her expression unreadable as she gazed at the fallen harvesters. We need to move, she said. That explosion will attract your military. Liam grasped her hand, their fingers intertwining. Where to? Before they found us, I sent a signal to an old contact on Proxima Centauri's 2nd moon. She owes me a favor, safe passage and new identities. You want me to leave Earth? Vexa's luminescent eyes met his, uncertainty visible for the first time. The bond marks, they're permanent. My people mate for life. She touched his chest. But I won't force that choice on you. Liam pulled her close, their bodies fitting together perfectly despite their differences. I left civilization behind years ago. There's nothing keeping me here. They kissed as the cavern trembled with aftershocks from the explosion, passion igniting between them once more. Liam's hands explored the glowing patterns on her skin, each touch sending ripples of light across her body. They made love urgently against the cave wall, Vexa's legs wrapped around his waist as he drove into her. Her markings blazed with intense blue light, illuminating their joined bodies in the darkness. Each thrust brought gasps and whispered endearments in 2 languages, binding them together in something beyond words. As they reached release together, Vexa's markings flared so brightly they cast shadows on the distant cave walls, a visible manifestation of the connection formed between species from different worlds. Later, as they gathered supplies for their journey, Liam glanced back at Earth's sky one last time. "Will I be the only human where we're going?" Vexa smiled, a gesture she'd adopted from him. "The second moon is a trading hub, beings from 100 worlds coexist there. You won't be the strangest sight." "And us? An alien assassin and a human soldier?" "Former assassin," she corrected, the bond marks on her skin pulsing gently. "Now just Vexa. Partner to Liam." As they departed through the mountain pass, headed toward the hidden shuttle Vexa had summoned, the galaxy's deadliest assassin entwined her fingers with those of her human mate, no longer hunter or hunted, but something entirely new. Together, they stepped into the future, 2 fugitives who had found in each other something worth fighting for, a home that transcended worlds.